Welcome to The Real Deal, where we get real about what it takes to succeed. Whether it's wealth, health, relationships, or finding your purpose, we talk to the masters to uncover the secrets to defying the odds and creating your own rock star legacy. I'm Doug, and after working on multiple Grammy-winning records as an author, transformational speaker, and your personal translightenment coach, I'm committed to your growth and success. And now, here's the real deal. The Magician, Greg Gleason, has been seen on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, WGN, CW, and Global News. Greg has headlined the Las Vegas Strip at the MGM, Venetian, and Bally's, whatever. Bally's, not the drink. With over 10,000 performances. He has starred in 10 national tours of Masters of Illusion and can be seen in Masters of Illusion TV series in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19. He is also featured on the TV series Street Magic and Don't Blink. He and Jeff McBride created Las Vegas Magic Stars and toured arenas in China. Today, Greg is one of the top performing magicians in the world, doing shows literally all over the world. In Las Vegas, he starred in The Wizard's Secrets at the MGM Hotel and Casino, performing a record-breaking 9,000 shows there. He also went on to star in Gleason Magic, Embrace the Mystery, at the Venetian Hotel and Casino. Greg has taken both his Grand Illusion show and his sleight-of-hand show around the world, performing on extended contracts in Japan and China. He is also a favorite headliner at the top luxury cruise lines. Greg's thrilling and cutting-edge performances have made him an international sensation. His shows exhibit the impeccable technique and the dedication to his craft that is rarely seen in modern illusion acts today. His sleight-of-hand skills are smooth as silk. I can account for that. Truly making astonishing magic. The International Magician Society named Greg Illusionist of the Year and also has awarded Magician of the Year at the World Magic Awards. From his parents' living room to stages all over the world, Greg's lifelong commitment to magic has not only perfected his abilities, it's also transformed the world of magic. His intuitive ideas and creative presentations continue to delight audiences by the thousands and hopefully inspire other 13-year-olds to chase their dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg Gleason!
Wow.
Yeah, I get to live vicariously through you when I do that. That was fun.
That was. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, oh my gosh, dude, you are definitely one of the best of the best. I have been privileged to see you do your sleight of hand and your mentalism, which you did not mention in the intro here. Is that not a skill that you use all that often? Was privy to some special gifts?
No, as far the mentalism or the memory.
The mentalism.
The mentalism. I do that a lot also, but it's just not on my webpage and it's just not on my promo material. But
it's amazing.
It's kind of like when I go out on the cruise ships and I do one show, they say you have to do a second show. I say, good, I'll do the mentalism show. And it's just as strong and fun. And yeah, that's when we met, when I did that mentalism show in Florida.
Yeah, it was badass. I was blown away. I mean, I'm sure you meet people like me all the time who know enough about magic to be a pain in the ass, asking like weird questions, but can do pretty much none of it. I do prop magic when I speak, so I do the crushing bottle and like the straight rope and stuff, but that's about it. I try and get into doing the cutting of the rope or things like that, and I don't know, I just haven't mastered it. I need to, like, did you have, like, we'll just dive right into how you became who you are. Did you have like a natural ability to read the instructions? Because that to me is the hardest thing to get around, are the instructions in the magic tricks.
Good question. And the answer is, I think I developed it because I wanted to. I don't think I was, I don't think I even read that much before until I wanted to learn the magic. And back then, we're talking in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't videotapes, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't, any other means to do it. Everything was in a book. So you had to sit there and read the book and try to figure it out. So I would buy a magic book, and I would go through every single page and try out every single trick, and that's what I did, almost every night, sitting in my room working on stuff like that.
Wow. What was the first one that you kind of got that you were like, oh God, and you're showing all your friends and your family and stuff?
Out of a magic book, or
yeah, like when you were a kid.
My dad liked magic. My dad wasn't a magician, but he liked magic. And one day he decided, you know what, I'm gonna take Greg down to the magic shop. There was a magic shop. This was in Dallas, downtown Dallas, and this magic shop had been there, I don't know, 40 or 50 years. And we went in there, and there was a magician behind the counters, and I'd say, "What's that trick?" And he would do it. And "What's that trick?" And it was just so much fun seeing all these tricks that, my dad said, I could buy 2 or 3 of them. And so those were the first tricks they were actually just like the prop magic you buy at the magic shop.
Right.
But then later on, I wanted to get more into the sleight of hand and more into this actual skill, instead of buying tricks, actually be able to do sleight of hand. So that's when I started buying books, and there was a book called Mark Wilson Course in Magic, came out in 1976, and it was like the book to start performing magic. It taught you all the card sleights. It taught you how to do the rope tricks. It taught you.
Is that book still available?
It sure is, and yeah, it's awesome. If anyone's starting in magic, that's what I highly recommend, the Mark Wilson Course in Magic, and it's laid out. A lot of the books didn't have that many illustrations or pictures, so you just kind of read along and you didn't know what they were talking about. But this one, every single paragraph has a picture that goes with it, so it's very easy to follow and very easy to learn. So
it's like magic for dummies.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. There actually is a magic for dummies, but the Mark Wilson course is far superior.
It's better. Okay, wow. Yeah. So was like at an early age, I know we're going to talk about the journey you've been on. Was like, did you always know you were going to be doing this? Like
I had
magic?
I had no idea. It was just one of those things. When I was a kid, every hobby I picked up to, I jumped into 100%. Like when I was in junior high, one day it was archery class in PE, and it was like, this is awesome. And, I had to go out and buy my own bow and arrows and targets. And, I was hooked on that for months. Or even in elementary school, one of my friends had a model rocket, these Estes rockets. I don't know if you remember.
I remember those. Yeah.
And it was like, we went and, put the little engine in it. It's, it's little, I don't even know what it was, this powder, and you put an igniter in it and shoot up. And this is the coolest thing. So he had like 1 or 2, and, a year later I had 30 of them. And
were you able to retrieve them? Mine always seem to kind of disappear somehow. I don't know.
They would sometimes. Yeah, after a while you kind of figure out how to aim the launch pad so the wind will blow right back to you. So, But yeah, there was a lot of times you're chasing those in empty fields. So the answer is, like, even when I started in magic, I didn't know. It was just a hobby. And then all of a sudden my dad really liked it when he had friends come over. Hey, Greg, do some tricks. And
dance, monkey.
Yeah. And then before you know it, I had like a little show, and I go, I can probably make some money doing birthday parties. And
how old were you?
I was 12 or 13 when I started, and I was doing it for kids in the neighborhood that were 6 and 7. So, but when you're making $5 a show back then, and then that was like a lot of money in the mid 70s. It was like $5, and I get to just go do my magic tricks, and then my price went up to 10, and now it's up to 20.
You stopped doing chores because you're like, I don't need allowance. I'm just gonna go have fun. I'm not cutting the lawn.
Exactly. But even through high school, I would do shows, and in college, I would do shows in bars and in restaurants. I'd be the restaurant magician, where you go from table to table doing magic, and but it was just so much fun, and I was making such good money. All my friends had like, full-time jobs, and I was making more money working on Friday and Saturday, just, doing card tricks and coin tricks at people's tables at restaurants.
And enjoying it. It wasn't even like it was a grind. Yeah.
Exactly. And in the process, learning, more and more, and developing new tricks but yeah, just having a great time. Yeah.
You were developing new tricks even like in your early days, like creating were they illusions, or like what were the kind of tricks you were doing early on?
Just, different card tricks, different slants on, taking an existing trick and changing a little bit. And right. It was just variations, I'm going to say, of other things. It wasn't really until, I'm going to say, the last 20, well, when I became professional I decided to, I'm jumping like 20 years, but okay. When I decided to do magic full time, then I actually started developing things, and that was in the 90s. And that was, okay. It was like a big race. Magic was really big back then, and there was magicians were performing everywhere. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll come around because that would have been when part of the time when I was getting into it. So, all right, so you're making money doing magic. Your friends, you're making more than your friends. Is this, and it's during college?
In college, I was doing that, yes. And then it's interesting. As soon as I got out of college, I got a degree in finance and economics, but I was, doing the magic to pay for college. And immediately, okay, let me back up one thing first. The first thing that got me interested in magic was, remember that book I was talking about, the Mark Wilson course? The Mark Wilson course, he had a TV series on in 73, 74 called The Magic Circus. And that's when I saw that. I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be a magician. So Mark Wilson was really the first magician that I saw and inspired me to want to do that. And then his book came out in 76. And then during high school and college, I continued to work on my show and my act. And in 1983, 10 years after I saw that TV special, I was in a contest, a magic convention. They have magic conventions where magicians from all over the country come, sometimes from all over the world. And this one was in Kansas City, I believe. And it was in 83. And I won the contest. And you know who gave me the award? Mark Wilson. So how weird is that? That someone I saw when I was 13 or 12, when I was 12, I saw him when I was 12 years old on TV. I said, I want to do that. And 10 years later, when I'm 22, he's giving me an award for winning the magic contest. So, and then so his book in there too, and it's just kind of a.
Did he sign the book for you?
Oh yeah, many times. I probably got 7 or 8 copies of it.
That's awesome. It's funny when we chatted earlier, like right before we got on, we talked about like the synchronicity, and I'd shared a little bit about
right.
Cobra Kai and Dee Snider. Similar timeline with me and Dee. So when I was about 15, my mom brought me. I always wanted to. I was already playing sort of in bands ish or whatever, but I wasn't quite there yet. She took her boyfriend at the time, or I guess I was 16, was friends with the tech at the studio on Long Island, and brought me there to just see the studio. And I think by this time I'd already gone to some concerts or whatever, and Twisted Sister was one of the big shows one of my first shows. Right. And so we go up the stairs, we go in and take him into the one room where it's the tech office because he was the tech. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't take you into the control room because Howard Stern, Leslie Mills, Robin Quivers, and Dee Snider are all working in there, and I can't bring you in. So we're like, oh, okay, whatever. So we go into the lounge, or where the kitchen is, and then Dee comes out of the control room and starts walking down his big shoes, walking down the hallway, and the guy goes, oh yeah, well there's Dee. So I peek the head of my out of the corner to see him, and Dee notices me. And he's like, who the F are you? And I'm like, I'm Doug. He's like, what the F are you doing here? And I'm like, and then he says, David! And he starts storming up the stairs. When I say lockout, I mean lockout. There's an effing kid down here. And da-da-da. So the guy's like, you got to go, right? So we leave. I guess it was 7 or 8 years later, Dee's lost everything. He's starting over, and he becomes a production coordinator at that studio that I'm now working at. And I end up co-producing the second Widowmaker record, and then Dee and I became like, good friends and all that from that. But it's just like we were just sharing, like these people at an early age have an impact, good or bad, but they could have this impact, and it consciously and or other than consciously sets some seeds and takes us to a place that it comes full circle.
And that's a funny story too, because it's sometimes you shouldn't meet your idols, and it's just it's kind of timing too. I have a similar story meeting Harry Anderson the first time. I don't know if you remember Harry Anderson. He was Night Court.
Yes, and he was a magician, right?
Magician, yeah. And I met him at a magic convention, and he was just a real dick. And it was like, I was like, wow, that's really weird. I didn't
Do you
ever.
think that was it after Night Court? Do you think he became one because of his fame, or do you think he always was one?
I think he was just actually being sarcastic, and I didn't realize it.
Oh,
and he just came across as being a dick, but he was being sarcastic.
He was trying to be funny.
Yeah, and I was going. So for years, I just thought, yeah, he's a dick. And then I'm at another magic convention, and there was a really good mentalist. His name was Barry Richardson, and he wrote some great mentalism books. And I'm good friends with mentalists, good friends with Barry. And Barry Richardson and Harry Anderson are walking down the hall, and Barry stops Harry. Barry stops Harry and goes, "Harry, do you know Greg? You should know Greg."
Oh, that's awesome.
Turned the tables, kind of. And after that, Harry and I always got along great. And
oh, wow, cool.
So it was just kind of, for a long time, I thought he was just a dick, but he was being sarcastic. And then, the same thing with Dee, kind of. Who knows, what was going on there? But look how he's changed, and
yeah,
he's got good friends now. So
I did tell him about that. I'm like, dude, you don't remember this, but we met once before, and you were a dick. And he's like, what happened? And I told him. He's like, yeah. He's like, I was not cool back then. He goes, but you probably would have been disappointed if you found out I was just this nice guy. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it would have been fine just you being cool with me, hanging in the lounge of the studio. Like, what was I doing?
I know.
But yeah, God bless him. All right, so back to we could wax poetic about all sorts of cool stuff. When you ended up going to college and like going, okay, you decided at an early age, right? So you were in your teens when you were like, that's what I want to do, right? When you and you did come full circle, but there was a gap. Like you did other stuff in between.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because even when I graduated with a degree in finance and economics, because at that point there really wasn't very many magicians that I knew of that were actually making any money. Doug Henning had been extremely successful, but he kind of got out of the scene. David Copperfield was big, and that was about it. Siegfried and Roy out in Las Vegas, and I didn't know too many other people that were really successful making money. So that's why I went to college and got those degrees. But as soon as I got out of college, I said, I want to try this magic. And a new nightclub was opening in Kansas City called Confetti. And this was 1984. And they were spending $3.5 million building this nightclub. And it was spectacular. That's a lot of money in 1984 and they weren't building it from the ground up. It was a remodel. It was already an existing building.
Okay.
So it was really, really nice. And I went in there, and they had an entertainment team, and I went in to be the magician, and I got hired. But this company was expanding so fast, they were opening up. There was 13 or 14 of them across the country. But a month after they opened Kansas City, they were opening one in San Diego. And the entertainment director that hired me in Kansas City wanted to go to San Diego. He didn't want to live in Kansas City. He goes, I want to live in San Diego. He goes, Greg, why don't you be the entertainment director? And so I'm hired to be a magician, and a week later, I'm the entertainment director.
So were you unable to do the magic? You had to
I
dedicate?
still do both.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
good.
still do both. And then we had dancers and clowns and jugglers and lip sync artists, and we had all this entertainment at this nightclub. So I was in charge of all of them, and it was fun because I got to play rock star. We did all these lip syncs, and basically we would watch MTV, and we had a budget so we could just like duplicate everything we saw.
Oh, wow, cool.
On MTV. So you know, we would do Billy Idol things and Loverboy and
you would do that. You played one of the. You would do that too. Would you actually lip sync?
Yeah, I would do like Don Cafferty's Dark on the Dark Side. I would do some Cars stuff, some Rick Ocasek stuff.
Do you have any of this on tape?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I'll put it up on my Facebook page.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really funny to watch.
Yeah.
And some of them were incredible. I was in charge of all these people, and it's like it was a contest between all of the nightclubs, all 13 of them. And it's interesting. A good friend of ours, the one that opened in San Diego, Marshall Silver, was working out the one in Kansas City. I mean, I was in Kansas City. Marshall was in San Diego. And I had another friend that wasn't a friend at the time, but it's a very good friend now. A mentalist, Banachek, was doing the one in Houston. So it's really interesting how all of us were in that same worked for that same company. The Confetti was owned by McFadden Venture, but it's interesting that we're all tied together because of 35 years ago, the same company we worked for. So
wow, that's cool.
A good friend of mine, Doug Billings, has a show called The Right Side with Doug Billings, and it's a really good podcast show. And he worked with me at Kansas City. So
what did he do?
He was part of my entertainment team. He did Elvis and he did Loverboy and he did all this other stuff. So
okay, good. Well, when we chat, I'll bring that out. We'll see. That'll be good.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing magic and then I'm entertainment director. And then after about 9 months or a year, they said, we have to get rid of this entertainment. It's costing us way too much money. And we're just going to, the club's doing great. And why don't you, Greg, we're going to promote you to assistant general manager. I go, oh, okay, I'll do that. So now I'm only 23 and I'm running a $3 million club.
Wow.
And, we're doing 1,000 people every night. It's wow. Slammed. It's packed all the time. And then this company was so successful that other companies were trying to rip it off. And I answered the phone once in Kansas City, and they said, hey, we're opening a club in Columbus, Ohio called Streamers, which direct ripoff of Confetti, Streamers. Oh, and they said, why don't you come up and run it? And I go, okay. Now I'm only 25 and I'm general manager of this club in Columbus, Ohio. That's, we're doing 1,000 people a night. And just this was back in the 80s when nightclubs were huge and just doing huge numbers. And then I didn't, Columbus, Ohio, I liked it, but I wanted to go back to Texas where I originally grew up and started magic and stuff. And there was a Confetti down there, so I went and ran that one. And then, so now I'm 3 or 4 years into running these clubs for people.
And not doing magic anymore?
I'm not even doing magic. And I'm so busy running these clubs that I'm really not even doing it. And I decide, having a degree in finance and economics, it's like I'm looking at the money these clubs are making. It's like, why don't I open one and I can make all this money instead of the salary they're paying me. And sure enough, in Dallas, I left Confetti and went right down the street and opened a club called The Basement. And I opened it for like on a shoestring, and it exploded. It took off. We were doing 1,000 people on Friday, 1,200 people on Saturday, and turned into Dallas's like #1 live music venue. And so that was a lot of fun. So I'm not doing any magic, but I decided, I'm just going to open my own club. But it's interesting that I opened it because I didn't want to work for someone. I wanted to create my own job and make my own money. But in the same time, I was giving all these bands a place to play that didn't have any place to play. And so like do you remember Vanilla Ice?
Yes, of course. He's down here. He lives in West Palm. Ice Baby, yeah, Robbie Van Winkle. Yep. He used to come in all the time. And he would come in and he was just a kid. He was just a high school kid. And well, probably right out of high school, because
the club was 18 to get in, 21 to drink.
Okay.
And
so it was 18 to drink.
Yeah. So they drank before they got there. And but yeah, he was there all the time, and that's where he started. A girl named Edie Brickell. She had a band.
Wow.
Yep. She had that song "What I Am Is What I Am." Ended up marrying Paul Simon. She started at my club. There was a heavy metal band called Pantera that exploded. They were a huge heavy metal band, and actually they taped their videos at my club.
Yep.
But the reason I bring all this up is because all these people, I gave them a place to start, and all of a sudden, I still get emails and messages on Facebook all the time from all these people. Thank you for giving us a place to start and giving us, giving us our band a place. And that was never even my intention. My intention was just I didn't want to work for someone. I wanted to have my own job. But what happened was I ended up doing this stuff for all these people and giving them opportunities to grow and to be successful and to
that's beautiful.
Follow their dreams. And
I just want to point out, like, this is, I think, what's such an interesting thing where I think other people, they may miss it. And even I missed it at first when I was listening to you. You took chances, big chances.
Yes.
And you just shared it so nonchalantly. And I think that people don't realize how important it is, A, that you have to take a chance. You have to, there's no risk, no reward. But also the mindset going into it. You can't go into it like freaking out. You obviously be smart. You put your parachute on before you jump out of the plane. But the way you just shared, like, and I just took this job, it was like most, and then they offered me this job in Columbus, and I was like, okay, I'll just pick up and leave and go to Columbus. Most people don't do that. Like, there's all this internal chatter and this, like, what if this and what if that and all that, and then they also will get into like a stuck mode, a steady mode, right? What are the 3 worst addictions for an entrepreneur? Sugar, heroin, and a salary, right? So you had an opportunity that you were making, I'm sure, even at 23 or 25, more money than all your friends were making at that club, and you still were able to go, you know what? I want to do my own thing. I want to, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to, like, have the confidence and the belief in yourself to just do it, and not in an arrogant way. Like, and I think that's why I think people miss it with you. Your talent, your inner confidence and belief in yourself is so deep that you just come across as like, like, hey, yeah, I'm just going to go do this. I'm just going to, I'm just going to open this club, and like, you're like, what do you mean you're just going to do that? And you're like, yeah, I'll just do it. Right? And it's potent and powerful. And I want people to see that, because that is important.
and it was crazy, because when I opened that club, I was 26. And if someone, I can't believe, number one, that the landlord even rented us the building because it was me and a friend decided to do it, and we really didn't have any money. So we went out and got investors, and we figured out how much it would cost to open the doors, but we had never opened anything before. So we didn't know about working capital. We didn't know about any of that stuff.
Yeah, you had no carry. You were lucky that you were successful the first night.
That's the exact truth. If we weren't busy the first night, we would have been closed the second day, because there was no backup plan, none. And I was just talking to my friend Doug Billings about this a couple of days ago, and it was just like, it was crazy that we were fearless back then, because number one, we really didn't have anything to lose. We just, we weren't really well established. We were still young. We didn't have, millions of dollars in the bank that we were putting into this project. It's funny that the day I opened, I was working for Confetti in Dallas, and they closed down to remodel, and they wanted a different demographic. So I'm going, why would you want a different demographic? You got 2,000 people coming here every Friday and Saturday night. And your profit is 70%, 70 cents on the dollar. That's what their profit was. It was ridiculous. And I'm going, why are you changing formats? This is just a gold mine. They go, we don't want these 18 to 21 year olds. We want over 21. And it was like, well, I'll take them. so I had to find a place, and it was funny. There was a comedy corner. This was this is 87. So this was when comedy clubs are really big. And there was one in Dallas called the Comedy Corner that like Bill Engvall started at. And he was like the main guy that came out of there, but all the comedians played there. But in 87, also the Improv and the Funny Bone came into Dallas and took all their business. And the Comedy Corner was basically like a shithole. It was so run down. They never put any money into it. And when it went out of business, I said, nobody's going to rent that place. It's a shithole. And then I go, wait a minute. I got an idea.
I'll rent it.
I'm going to call it the Basement. And it wasn't in a basement, but I go, a basement. No one's going to have high expectations of a club called the Basement.
Like a Spinal Tap episode.
So we built the whole thing out of cinder block and chain link fence, remodeled the whole interior. And there was it wasn't in a basement. We wanted it to look like it was in a basement. So we built staircases going up the walls, and just top of the staircases, we just glued doors to the wall. And so you look like you're in a basement, but those staircases turned out to be, dance floors, and everyone would dance. It was amazing. And it became an iconic place. They still write about it in the Dallas.
Is it still open?
No, it was open from 87 to 94, and I sold it to my partner in 91, because in 91 I said, if I don't do magic now, I just turned 30, or was about to turn 30, and I said, if I don't do magic now, I'm never going to do it. So
okay, so hold on. This again, brilliant. You were doing great, and in so many ways, you probably could have been set for life. With also your finance background, you were able to, I'm sure, manage it well. And then you realize you were unfulfilled, and you just said, "That's it." Was there any vacillation? Did you have any inner conflict about that? Was there a part of you who was like, well, maybe I could do both, or maybe I'll do magic night at the show or at the club, or were you just like, no, you know what? It's all or nothing.
All or nothing. It was like, I'm going 100%, and just like, it was like as a backup, I can always go back and open a nightclub. It was that one in Dallas was the first one I opened. And then I went back to Kansas City and opened a second one. And then I had, 4 or 5 of them in that short period of years from 87 to 91. And I got so good at it that I could literally, the third one I opened, it paid for itself the first weekend it was open. And after that, it only lasted a year, but it was pure profit for a year.
That's huge, yeah.
And so it was like, I can always come back to this. So
okay, all right. So you go into magic as boldly as you opened up a club.
Exactly.
But it's a different mindset. It's a whole different model.
It is, but it's just like you're modeling yourself after who was successful at the time.
Right.
So it's like, okay, what do I need to do? There's magic. Okay, this was 91, so magic still hadn't taken off yet. It was like 94, 95 when it really took off. Mm-hmm. But in 91, actually it was in 90, I started going, I need to do this. It took me a year to it wasn't like one day I said, I'm going to quit. It was like I started developing a show, and then it was like, okay, I got it. I got it kind of a show. Now it's time to go 100%. So I looked at who was the most successful magician in 91, and there was only one, really, David Copperfield. He was the most successful. I said, well, I'm going to be like David Copperfield. I'm going to, everyone can't afford David Copperfield, but I can offer almost the same thing and pick up all the work that he's not doing. Or
he was doing big illusions then, right?
Exactly. So that's what I did.
But was that your first foray into illusions of that magnitude, or were you still doing, the sleight of hand and the, the tricks that were not, like big stage stuff?
I was still doing that, but I realized to make the money, the only way to make the money is to do the big illusions.
Right.
So I took the money from some of that I had made in the nightclub business and went to the top magic builders and had them build, a lot of the same props that David was doing, because David didn't invent those. David bought those. And I can buy those and I can do that, and I can have a show that looks just like David's. So
a little bit how the hot dog is made. When like David bought those tricks, is there an additional fee to be exclusive? Like, or is it just your character, your, how you present it that makes it unique?
Both. A lot of illusions, there are some illusions are original and you can't do them. You can't do them. Mm-hmm. David does have some original illusions. There's other people that have come up with things. I've created illusions and I sell the rights. I don't build them usually. Sometimes I'll build them, but there's magic builders that will build them, and before anyone can do it, they have to pay me like a licensing fee or the rights to do it.
Right. And then like for an additional fee, they could be the only person who could do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that gets really expensive. David Copperfield did the flying trick where he would fly around the stage, and the guy that built it for David wanted an exclusive and wanted, I don't know, $500,000 for the exclusive, maybe more, but it was at least $500,000. And David goes, "I'm not paying that." And
he's like, "Fine, Greg's going to be doing it too, across the street."
And I was. And so were people all over, and the builder, David and that builder had a big falling out over that. But David could have said, "Okay, I'll pay it," but the other guy is going to make $1 million selling them. So
yeah,
it's it's a trade-off. So there are some exclusives. Like I created a trick where I make a helicopter appear in the middle of a stage. You can do it surrounded. It's an amazing illusion, and I charge a lot for the rights, but I also don't sell the rights to anyone in the United States because I don't want to be competing against myself.
Yeah, smart. Okay, wow, that's such, again, the whole magic world is so intriguing to me. For a number of reasons. One is just the talent that it takes. It's to me, it's really beyond just it is an art. And then also that there's that whole other side of it, like people who are making tricks, like they're making the illusions, and they're not magicians necessarily themselves. They're builders. But they understand what you're doing. So like you could go to them and say, "Okay, I want to do it's this. It's based on this, but here, look, we want to do that." And they're like, yeah, we could do that."
Exactly.
What a cool conversation that must be when you guys brainstorm together.
It is. It's a lot of fun, and I know some of the top illusion designers and the top builders, and when we get together, it is a lot of fun in creating new things.
Are they like you, like also magicians?
They've all had magic backgrounds, but most of the magic builders saw that they'd make more money actually building than performing, so they got into the building part of it.
And are they all based in Vegas and California?
Yeah, and that's where the main builders are actually.
Yeah.
And then there's not really that many designers. There's a couple in the U.S. and a couple overseas. It's amazing. Most magic comes out of the U.S. A little bit out of Europe, but most of the magic ideas all come out of the U.S.
Wow, that's pretty interesting and cool. Wow, and it's a very small community though. Like
it is. We all know each other, and we've known each other for, I first met Copperfield in 1980. 11 years before I decided to do magic full time. So.
Oh, wow. Is he still? Before COVID, obviously, he was at the MGM. Was he still there, or?
He still he was.
Working?
And because of COVID, everything's been closed down. I've heard he's opening sometime in March, middle of March or something.
So he's still working. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's COVID's just, it's killed entertainment in Las Vegas. There really hasn't been any shows open since last March. So we're almost going on a year. And, this was the entertainment capital of the world. The Cirque shows alone probably, I don't even know, let's say 75 or let's just say 100 people per show, because those Cirque show casts were big.
Giant. And the support for that to put on that show. And
there were 6 of those shows. So look at all those performers and nothing, no income coming in. So
were you living in Vegas when it all started, or?
Yeah, I've been out here since '93.
Okay. Oh, so you're in Vegas right now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought. You're building something in Kansas City now, but not.
Let's talk about that in a minute.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, go back.
So I put together this magic show and left the nightclub. Said, okay, had a lot of fun with the clubs. And one thing about the nightclubs, people think it's all glamour, but it's not. You're there at 11 in the morning, 12, because you're there till sometimes 3 or 4 at night, sometimes later. And so you're there all day and all night, and you see people at their best, and then you see them at their worst, because they come in at 7 or 8, and they look great, and they're sharp, and 4 hours later they're hammered and look like hell, and it turns into like babysitting. I mean, I was like, I'm tired of babysitting. It was, how many years did I do that? 7 altogether. It was like, that's why I said I'm doing magic full time, because I'm not going to babysit drunks for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so in my 20s, it was like the greatest thing to do ever. And in my 30s, I said, nope, it's time to do magic. So I put together that, looked at Copperfield as the model, put together a show like his, put together a promo tape. And within a few months, I was booked for this review in Japan. And I had never been out, growing up in Texas, grown up in Montana and Texas and Kansas. I never really thought about, traveling outside of the United States very much, right, and around the world. But all of a sudden it's like, you want to do a show in Japan at this resort? Yeah, that'll be great. And that was really the first time out of. So
2 things that I think are amazing. One, you reinvented yourself at 30, which for someone who's younger than 30, they're oftentimes thinking like it's too late. So perfect. And then how did you get a gig outside of the country? From here you are, you didn't even think about it, and then next thing you know, you get an offer. How does one even make that happen? I put together the show. I said, okay, and then you have to have a video to sell yourself at all. So I put together this video, and then I knew some other magicians, and they had done some overseas stuff. And I said, how do I go about, getting booked on some of these overseas things? And one of my friends in Houston said, here's an agent that has brought me over to Japan. Maybe you'd want it. Maybe, but you'd be interested in doing it. Oh, nice of him.
And I said, yeah, that would be cool. So we sent the video, and boom, I don't know, it was just a matter of a month or 2 later. It's like, okay, do you want to do a 6-month show in Japan? And it was like, it was really the first time I did the illusion show. We didn't do it anywhere else. We just built it and
then filmed it
and sent it out. So now I got 6 months in Japan to, do it every day and get good at it, just work at it. And it was like the perfect place. And
so what was that like, the first show?
The first show, everything went good except for one trick. And it was one of the illusions we just couldn't do because it wasn't set. The problem was the show wasn't rehearsed enough for the illusion to actually get on stage and set. So we just had to abort that trick. It was,
Did you abort it before you did it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
we couldn't do it. So
Oh, you knew. Oh, it wasn't like in the middle of it. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
nothing went wrong or anything. It
Okay,
just
yeah,
wasn't there. So it was like,
saw the girl in half, and you try pulling it apart, and like,
no, it was just one of those things when you get in there and, I'm just part of the show and they have dancers and singers and stuff.
yeah.
And it was just a transition that didn't occur. And it was like, oh, okay. But it was the first show and it never happened after that. It's like, someone needs to push that table out there so the girl can close. You just push it out there in front of everybody. You have to push it out there, when the curtains close. And so.
Awesome. But that must have felt amazing to like make that transition and then get hired to go to Japan and like,
Yeah.
Now, I guess you didn't have enough experience to compare, but when you look back, what culturally are other countries like more excited or open or more fun to do illusions in, or are they all, or people just people and they all kind of get the same wow?
I think Asia is really big into magic. So I've worked a lot in China and Japan. I don't know what it is about their culture, but it's just magic's just a bigger thing over there than it is in the United States. But the audiences are better in the United States because they clap in Japan.
They're so polite.
In Japan, they don't want to make noise. They smile, And in China, they just sit there like this with their camera just taping you the whole time. They don't even watch. We'll watch it later.
That's funny.
So I like American audiences by far the best, but Japan, it was a great place for me to actually start my illusion career. And then I got over there and we have a much better video because it's just, not a studio video. It's actually, in a real theater with people and everything. So that was in all in 92, last half of 92. So now I'm back in the United States in 93, but I don't have anything lined up because I was in Japan for 6 months. And I see this notice that they're going to open the MGM's going to open in Las Vegas. And it's like, wow. And they're going to do a magic show. And it's like, I wonder who the magician's going to be. So I called up right away and it's like, oh, we don't have one. We don't have one yet. We're just going to have a magic show. It's like, well, who's hiring the magician?
Yeah. What do you mean?
And it's like this company in Dallas is. And I go, I was living in Dallas. I go, I'm from Dallas. I'm going to go, I'm going to go find out who this is. So I had my videotape.
From Japan, yeah.
Yeah, here I am.
It looks way better.
I know. And I went in, I met the guy that was building the show and going to be producing the show. And I said, who's going to be a magician? We don't know yet. And it's like, well, I want to do it. And it was the perfect time because they were looking for someone in, their late 20s or early 30s and, someone young like that and for the show. And so I fit the bill perfectly. But they go, well, we don't know yet. And we're not hiring yet. We're just building the show. It doesn't open for 6 months.
And back then, well, not that it's ever different, were they like thinking they were going to get a name? Like, was there, or I guess back, was it big enough? Oh, it's 92, 93. So it's magic starting to be getting pretty big.
It's just starting to, yeah. So there really isn't any name. So no, they weren't looking for a name.
Okay.
So that was good. And, but yeah, they had been building it for like 6 months, and it was supposed to open like in 2 months. So I was like right timing. So I went in with the videotape, and then I didn't hear from him for a day. So I go,
hey, you didn't call me back. I was there yesterday.
I know.
Did you watch it yet?
So I go, I'm just going to go back and talk to him. So I brought another videotape, same one I gave him the day before. Exact same one. So I went in and said, hey, you watch my tape? No, we haven't had time yet. Well, here's another one just in case. And then like a few days later, I'm back. Did you watch my tape? No. Well, here's another one. I did it like 20 times. And they had like 20 of my videotapes. It was like a stack this high, Yeah. They had some other videotapes, but there's Greg's, 20 of them stacked up. And finally they just said, okay, we have to go. They said the show's, we gotta pick someone. Do you want to go to Vegas? And I go, yes, I want to go to Vegas. So it was just that, persistence of, I wanted that. So my second job was at the MGM in Las Vegas because, I took that 6 months in Japan and put together that video, and then found a producer and bugged him enough to.
Well, yeah, I think that is instructive. The persistence pays off. I think that oftentimes, and we're all guilty of it sometimes, yep. Where, we, especially if you think when you got something good and you go in and like, what do you mean you haven't watched it yet? Screw that person. I don't want to work with that person. They're not right. But the truth is that persistence, that, just stick-to-itiveness, I can look at every success I've had. It's been because of that.
Yep.
Backed up by talent, but really it's because as I think you and I both know, and everyone watching and listening know, there are plenty of people out there who are far less talented than we are, who are far more successful because they didn't stop. They just kept going and going and pushing and pushing and pushing until finally they just ended up being in the right place at the right time and just rode the wave.
Exactly. That's in every field. It's just not all. It's every field. It's every job.
And it's what we talked about a little bit earlier is about that. It's that belief in yourself. Right. Like if you didn't have that, again, that undertone of just supreme belief in your ability and open to possibility, to open the possibility of that you were able to go in every day. It reminds me, the Rocky Balboa story, right? Or the Colonel Sanders, or the Thomas Edison, right? Like all these stories of the people who just kept going and going and going. Yeah. Because you believed in yourself.
And when I kid, I say I went in, I bugged him, 20 times, but I was never bugging him actually. It was always, he was actually getting a chance to get to know me and see what I'm really like. So that's kind of why it really paid off. Because
of course, it wasn't like you were the chicken hawk, just showing up, like you just say, hey, I eat chickens. I remember that. If you remember the Bugs Bunny, but it's clearly you're in there. You're being graceful and elegant. You're connecting. You're building rapport, and I'm sure you're also kind of. I can imagine almost making fun of the fact that, hey, I got another tape for you. Here, you want me to just put it right here on the pile? Like,
exactly.
And it's endearing. Like, okay, so we could work with this guy. Like, he's not a dick. He's being persistent. That's the kind of person we want. He's nice. He's probably gonna treat our when after the shows, he's gonna probably meet and greet and be awesome, and everyone's gonna love him. So yeah, let's do it.
And you know what? They never even watched one of the videos.
And that, my friends, is the power of persistence. Yep. They didn't even watch the video. They bought you.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. So did you do the same show, or had you already started changing it up and working on different?
It was completely different than my show. MGM had built this show. Had commissioned this company to build this show. So it was all their illusions. It was all their costumes. It was all their music.
Wow.
So I didn't.
Is that typical?
No, that's very, very rare.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems really awkward. Like it's like Johnny Bravo. Like, hey, he fits the suit. Like.
That's kind of what it almost was too.
Yeah. So like, how was that? Like going into it? Like, did you know that going into it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, all right, so you already knew that. So did you know what kind of tricks they were going to be doing, or what was the learning curve?
We had maybe a week to rehearse them, which wasn't a lot of time. We were out there 3 weeks, and the illusion builder in LA that was supposed to be delivering them was never delivering them. But also, we were inside the MGM before it was still under construction. So the theater wasn't actually even built yet. I remember driving to LA for the producer and picking up the stage. It was interesting. It was a theater in the round, which means the stage is in the center of the theater and people are sitting all around you.
And did it spin?
And it would spin, yeah. Actually, it would only spin at one point. when the girl was floating, she was floating on the tip of a sword, and then the whole stage revolved.
Okay.
So you could see it from every angle. It was really cool. That was the only time. But it wasn't a big theater. It was 100 seats, and so it was a close-up illusion show, which is really, people are only 3 rows away, but we're doing illusions right in front of them. Wow. And it was really interesting because there's no wings, there's no backstage, so all the illusions had to come down out of the ceiling and land on the stage, and we do them, and then they go back up. And,
wow, that's really innovative.
Yeah, they spent, I don't know, close to $15 million building the theater and the stage.
Is it still up? Is that the theater that they still use, or?
No, they tore it down. It was supposed to run for 5 years, and we did the show for like 3.5 or 4, almost 4. And then they said, you know what, we'll make more money if we just have slot machines here. And, it was crazy because we were sold out every show. But this is 93. Vegas was a lot different 30 years ago. It was so much different. And, now it wouldn't work, but in 93, it was amazing.
Now, was that what kind of put you on the map? Like, did you become a, in the magic world, like the household name? Like, oh yeah, that's great, because you were probably one of the first guys with a residency in magic.
And the fact, yes and no. The magic world pretty much knew about the show at the MGM, but it was never a household name because it was such a small show, 100-seat theater.
Right.
And we weren't doing any TV, and they weren't even advertising this because it was sold out every show.
They didn't need to, I guess, yeah.
Why spend money on advertising when, it's just sold, every show was sold out. And so as far as promo and press, I didn't get a lot. However, so we're doing the show in 94, and Jay Leno just took over the Tonight Show, and he decides he wants to tape once 1 week a year in Las Vegas. So they tape at the MGM, and the craziest story is my ex-wife was having lunch with one of her friends in the cafeteria, or not cafeteria, but cafe, MGM Cafe. I don't remember the name of it, MGM Cafe or something, at the MGM. And she just happens to be sitting next to the producers of the Tonight Show. And they're talking about the show, and they're talking about, the acts they have on the show and things like that. And my ex-wife just looks over and says, do you have any magicians on your show?
That's awesome.
You're in Las Vegas. It's like the magic capital. Do you have any magicians? And they go, no, we don't. Well, and she goes, well, me and my husband, we do a show right here at the MGM, right? Just go right out. The theater's right over there. And they go, you want to be on it? And she goes, yeah, we'd probably love to. And the producer says, well, bring a trick in tomorrow, and if we like it, we'll put you on. And
wow.
So, all these people, I know I have all these magicians, and have friends that have tried to get on the Tonight Show for years and years and years, send in videotapes and sit and play and talk to agents, and all it took was, do you have any magicians?
Oh my gosh. Well, and also then I want to acknowledge and point out again, opportunity.
Yep.
Very few people would be able to either muster the courage to even say that right there,
right,
or do it in a way that's not obnoxious, that they go like, oh, dude, I don't want to be like, you just pissed me off. Like you had no grace and elegance, like even presenting it.
Right.
So, man, kudos to you. But I think, again, that goes to we talked earlier about like the secret, manifesting and creating the experience that you're doing, and how far that certainty, that confidence, that belief, and then the action, the activity, the willingness to take the action, take the step, ask the question, put yourself out there, take a risk. If you think about it, how many magicians do you think would take the opportunity to go, you're going to do a show and none of the magic is yours?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's the fact that you were willing to do that is, I mean, you deserve the success. and it's just so amazing that you were so hungry, so willing, and so like I guess just like-minded in the bigger picture. Like you were like, your bigger picture was to do the magic, to serve, to grow, to all of that, and you took advantage of every opportunity, which is huge.
Well, even when I was in college, I would come out to Vegas sometimes to see the magic show, Siegfried and Roy, and it was like, I really want to move to Vegas and do magic here. I really want to. So that was planted 7-8 years before that. But I knew I wasn't ever going to come out here and just like look for a job, because that's not how it happens.
Yeah.
So, so when the opportunity came up, it didn't matter. It was like, no, I get to do a show in Vegas, and with the budget that they had and the illusions that they were putting in the show, it was a lot. It was a lot more money invested in what they were putting in than I had in my show. So it's like, it was a huge upgrade. So it was a no-brainer. It was like,
yeah,
that's why I wanted so hard. That's why I pushed, went in that office, 20 times just to.
Right. And so, you knew that it was not going to be your tricks anyway. Right. So really all that they wanted to see on the video was like, do you have stage presence?
Exactly.
Wow. And you proved it. You had the stage presence because you were proving it by going in and talking to them.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's just a stepping stone. And then that was a stepping stone too that got me out to Vegas. So while I'm doing that show at the MGM, I'm meeting the magic builders and having new illusions built. So, because I knew that show was only, going to last so long.
Right.
So when it was, coming to an end, I had, a much, much bigger show than I had, before starting there.
Were you able to take any of the tricks that you did at that show?
Not the actual ones, but I had, several of those built. So I could get them anywhere.
So they kind of became a little bit of your signature, some of them?
Yeah, because after doing it 9,000 times, it was like, I can do these in my sleep. So, and they didn't go into my show right away, but my show's continually changing and just constantly growing. And, that's what I saw out here. I saw other magicians that were working out here, and they, like when I was at MGM, I couldn't change the show. It was a set show. It was their illusions. It was their, everything was programmed, the music, the lighting, everything's programmed. You can't change anything. But I knew I had all these friends out here that I met out here that were doing their show, and they never changed it. And I was like, this is not good. You need to you can
freshen it up.
Keep growing. And, when their job ended, they just had the same show, and it's sad, but hardly any of them are in magic anymore because they didn't grow. They did the same. I call them 90s flash acts, where they had 8 or 10 or 12 minutes of material, and that's all they did. And the 90s ended, and the flash acts were gone. You had to have your own show. You had to have an hour material at least to go out on cruise ships or to tour and things like that. And they didn't have it. So, they had all that time, all those years to grow, and they didn't. They just stayed stagnant and they go, no, this works. And yeah, it works now, but it's not going to work in 2 or 3 years from now. So constantly grow, constantly, build, constantly improve. And
that's amazing. Again, another thing to your credit, that you recognize that everything changes. And if you don't change with it, if you don't, modify and grow with your audience is going to leave you, because they don't want to see the same show over and over and over again. They want something, exciting and new and so forth. And the other thing that I guess, so it sounds like you were doing when you went to Vegas, doing a lot of the bigger illusions. I guess the two questions or angles I have are one is, it seems like it's unique that you can do close up and the big stuff. Is that a unique, they're two different skill sets?
Yeah, it's very different. And a lot of people, of all the magicians, very few of us do both. And it was, my college days of buying those magic books and just sitting there and going through every single trick, all with sleight of hand, and working the restaurants, doing close-up magic at all the tables. And I'm so glad I did it, because that's kind of the direction I've taken. I was just on Penn and Teller, Foolish.
I know, it's amazing.
That was all sleight of hand. And on Masters of Illusion, we're taping Masters of Illusion on the 23rd through the 29th of March. So I'll be on there, and I'm kind of like set. The producers look at me. It's like, oh, he's the illusion guy. He does the big magic. So I always have to keep bringing in big things, and it costs a lot of money to have these illusions built and hire assistants and training and rehearsals and it's not, I don't mind sitting around practicing and rehearsing things on my own, but it gets expensive to move things to LA and teach, all the assistants how to do things. And it's kind of like I'm kind of typecast into that position for Masters of Illusion. And
do you ever do like sleight of hand stuff for them to be like, look, I could look at it, and like blow them away, and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, do that.
I know, but you know what? Because it's a show of other magicians.
Oh, they have already a sleight of hand.
They say, no, we're going to have so-and-so do that because that's all they do.
Right.
And it's like, so I kind of get, molded into this illusion, big illusionist guy. So it was fun going on Penn and Teller and doing the sleight of hand stuff. So
what I noticed with that is no one, I guess here's, is it the honor system where they tell you, I know how you did it, and they kind of they use whatever language or whatever it is, but you never have to actually unpack how it's done. So could they actually not know how you did it, but like say enough to make it sound like they know what you did? Because sometimes that happens, and even I didn't fool them, and I knew going in I wasn't going to fool them. But that's not the purpose of being on that show. The purpose, yeah.
The exposure and all of a sudden, that was on Friday, and on Monday I got 2 phone calls or 2 emails for 2 other shows. I'm going to be on the Huckabee show. I don't know if I told you that.
Yeah, you did. That's awesome.
Show. So, it's great exposure. But as far as them, the trick I did was a standard magic trick, but I just took it like Penn said. I just took it to another dimension. But the techniques are still the same. So. Okay. And he was right on most of it. He wasn't right on all of it, but he was right on most of it. So, it does no good to, argue.
Right, of course. It's not like you're winning a prize or anything, right?
No, you win a trophy. It's like big deal. So, no, it was just, they were very, complimentary, and I like both those guys.
Yeah. I mean, I love that their shows are great too, and which brings me to, so the 2 things that I wanted to bring up was, one, because I do prop magic, if anything, right. I do it poorly. The big illusions, are they just giant prop magic, and are they easier to do in the sense that it's relying on some other devices, whereas the sleight of hand and some of those things requires certainly, I mean, I know there's complications, there's pros and cons, right? You're working with a team and you've got a big illusion, you've got other people to rely on, but I don't know, which is harder, or not say harder, but the difference between the two, obviously there's a reason why people don't usually do both. Is it, I guess, and the reason why I think this, and I could be wrong, is if they were able to hire you to do the illusions at the show,
right?
Those must be easy enough to teach somebody and train to whatever degree than it is to do like the street magic or close-up magic and sleight of hand, if that makes sense, the statement or question.
Yeah, but there's different levels of sleight of hand too. Some sleight of hand is you can pick up very quickly, and some takes years and years. And some illusions are the same way. You can pick up very quickly, or some will take a long time to develop. And sleight of hand might be a little more dexterous, and illusions can be extremely physical.
Right.
And as far as illusions go, it's a lot more than just sleight of hand and controlling a small environment. You have to deal with music and lighting and choreography and assistants and so many more things.
So many more variables that could go wrong.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's what I like about, when I'm doing things by myself, it's like, if it doesn't work, I'm the only one to blame. If we're doing some big illusion and something doesn't work, it could be, 4 or 5 people's fault,
Right. So, and then it gets me to the other thing is the other skill set to magic, and it's in the book, is the patter.
Right.
How that is something you're also phenomenal at. How did you develop that? Because that's that again, a whole other skill set. Like that's now getting into like comic timing and like it's a whole other thing.
It really is, and studying comedy. Judy Carter had a book out called the Comedy Workshop, the Workbook, or something like that. She's had a few books out actually, and they're really good. And I'm like one of the few magicians that I like taking songs and changing the song lyrics to fit the trick. Nobody does anything like that. And but it's storytelling is what it is. Yeah. And you just, if you're doing a card trick, just here, pick a card. Oh, there's your card. It's it gets boring really fast. Yeah. But right now, when I'm on tour, sometimes my theater, always on cruise ships, but even my theater tour, sometimes the whole show is just with a deck of cards, and no one would come and say, I'm going to go see this guy do card tricks, but it's not even really about card tricks. It's a whole story, and it's a whole experience that you don't see anywhere else, and it's got amazing sleight of hand in it, but it's got great storytelling, and it's got comedy and jokes all the way through it, and it's very, very entertaining, and it's something that people they never see. They've never seen anything like that, and they realize it's not mirrors and it's not smoke. It's someone right. with it's pure skill. So
yeah, because what's so special about that as well is, and you've taken it to another level, is the old mindset of the Big Illusion and the Doug Hennings and which they're all brilliant, but their stories weren't quite as in depth. The whole thing, like I know David, the last show I saw of David Copperfield, there was some of that where he told a story, he shared when he was a little kid and all of that. But during the trick, it's still like, okay, now I'm going to do the illusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug Henning, he was just, he was, it was all about the wonder. And then Copperfield came along and made, these vignettes and stories and things like that. But I think magic just keeps evolving, and now it's got some emotional hooks sometimes, and sometimes it's more storytelling.
Who are some of your favorite magicians now?
Now there's the list isn't very big because it's pretty funny. There's a famous magician named Jack Goldfinger. He books all the acts at the castle now, but he has a saying. It's like, you look up to the people who came before you, you look down to the people that come after you, and your peers you just look at. So I see the young kids, and it's like, they're young, they're growing, they're learning, and like, I'm gonna be 60 this year, so there's not older people aren't not many around anymore, and then all my peers, everybody else I just look at, it's like, yeah, I've known you for like 40 years. It's kind of
right. and I know all your tricks. I know how you do them.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a mentalist named Darren Brown out of the UK.
Yes, yeah.
And the stuff he's doing is brilliant, and I'm just a big fan of his. And,
have you met him?
What's that?
Have you met him and done any?
Oh yeah. It was, I went to New York. He had a show on Broadway in New York last November. No, not November 19. And it was interesting because he was at the Court Theater, which is where Doug Henning had his show that brought magic back to put magic back on the map. And that was in 74. And it was in the same theater. It's the first time a magic show has been there since Doug was there.
Oh, how cool.
And I go, number one, I get to go see Darren Brown. And number two, I get to sit in the Court Theater where Doug started. And I'm a huge Doug Henning fan, just from growing up with him. And I have a lot of his props, some of his props in my house, a bunch of them out in the garage, just, some of his major illusions.
Do you ever use them?
Yes. And I've done some of them on TV. They haven't been done on TV since Doug did them. And
cool.
I got two new ones. Well, they're not new. They're, from the 70s.
Yeah.
New to me. I just got them this summer. They're out in the garage and they just been completely refurbished. And I got some projects that I'm working on. I want to do a show in Toronto where he's from and where he started, and call it Remembering Doug Henning, and basically doing his whole touring show with a lot of his props, and because a lot of his magic still stands up today as it did back then, and then I'll put in some of my stuff too, just to bring it up to date.
I mean, that's cool that you saw Darren. One question is, like, with Darren, whenever I see like him do his thing, I'm like, how the F did he, like, wow, like, blown away. And I love how he shares some of the things that he does do. That's really cool.
Yep.
So I guess the one question is, are there any magicians, or do you go to shows and are you going to go, let me see if I could figure it out? Or are you going, like, I already know how they're doing it and I'm just looking to see, how they engage with the audience? Like, what is how do you go to other shows? Like, what's your mindset going into them?
A lot of times I'll watch the audience more than the magician, just to see, the reactions they're getting, and because I know what they're doing, and I like seeing the people entertained. I like seeing the effect it has on people. But I don't know. I still love going to magic shows. It's rare that I see someone that's like, I go, they're really good, and Darren is like the only person right now that I kind of put in that category.
Yeah, he's mind blowing. Really,
and
incredible.
He's got a good team that works with him, and so
love it. So now let's go to now the COVID craziness, where all of a sudden you're just plugging away, doing your thing. You have a combination of doing your shows and cruises, doing like you've got these two great kind of momentum, and then all of a sudden,
I know the brakes are on. It was tough because I was doing the cruise ships. I was getting ready to open my own close-up theater in Kansas City. Again, it's just a 100-seat theater, and it'd be open Fridays, Saturdays, and matinees on Sundays for people under 21. And I was working on that. I had 4 networks interested in a TV series that me and 2 other magicians, Jeff McBride and Ed Alonzo. Ed Alonzo was a magician. He was on Saved by the Bell. He was a regular in that. He's done a lot of TV, and so we had 4 networks, wanting to buy that, and so that would have been amazing to have, my own network TV show.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but everything, got shut down. Even when we were taping the Foolish show at the Rio, it was just, it's very strange, that show, normally there's a full theater and Penn and Teller are sitting there, and you got the host, and you got, all the stage people and camera people and everything. And we taped it this year. There's no audience. They just had that video screen of people's faces back there. Penn and Teller are, 20 feet away from you. There's no camera people. They're all running it remote from the lobby. And you're just on stage, and Allison is, 12 feet or 15 feet away. And, just because of COVID, it was, they could still do the show because everybody's so far away.
Right.
But it just didn't have the right feel. And even Masters of Illusion, we're taping that in March. It'll be interesting. to see what the restrictions are then, because that's, still a month and a half away, and things change every day. So it might not be near as difficult. But yeah, this COVID thing, it just put the brakes on all entertainment everywhere.
Right. So, but you did share some of your pivoting. So one of the things that you found that you have an even, I guess, similar sector, but different contribution is designing tricks for others.
Yeah, and you know what? That's interesting, because I never set out to do that or planned to do that, but because of the strong background I have in magic, I have a huge library that, a lot of magicians have libraries and they've never even read the books, and people go, you read all, I have a library that's just, 4 walls of books, and it's like, have you read these books? And I go, I know every trick and every single one of them just about. And because I have all that knowledge, when someone shows me an idea, I can go, yeah, you could do this or this or this or this or this, and here's 10 ways to do that or something. And I was hanging out with a couple other magicians that just invented a trick that they were marketing, and they said, look at this. And I said, well, this is what I would do with it, and then this, and then, so I showed them a completely different trick with what they'd come up with, and they go, well, that's awesome, let's market that. So I go, okay. And it ended up being like the biggest, selling trick in magic in the world for September and October. So that, it was just one of those things that I just kind of fell into, but because of the background and knowledge I have, it's like, oh, and selling that many units that fast, it was like, I think I'll produce a few more things. So I got 2 or 3 more things, that are in the pipeline, and one's getting really close to being released. So. And
are they big illusions, or are they?
No, it's all sleight-of-hand stuff. So it's
okay.
that anybody can buy, and the first one was a coin routine that it looks like pure magic. It looks like editing. People, I'd put it on my Facebook page, and people would say, that's great editing. And I go, there's no editing involved. If you were sitting there, it's exactly what it would look like. And because it didn't take, years and years of practice, people could do it rather quickly. That's why it sold so fast. And
wow.
Now all of a sudden, magicians around the world can, learn this pretty quickly, and just basically it looks like a miracle. So
did you, is that something well, one of the things that I loved doing when I was because there are no stores around here, was in Vegas, go to the magic stores. It was the Houdini's, I think. There's one in I was right across the street from the Trop in New York. New York,
yeah. There's a bunch of. It actually, a good friend of mine, Gino Minari, owns all of them, and his first magic shop was at the MGM in '93 when we opened the magic show there, and so I've known him since '93. And then he had the one at the MGM, and then they just started, he just started expanding with the different casinos opening up. He even had one at Disneyland in LA, and
I love going in there. I was with my daughter 2 days or 3 days ago, because I have a box full, because every time I go there I get some, and and then, but again, my brain hurts when I try and read the instructions, and it's like, I know there's a huge learning curve, but once you get it, you get it. But where do people, let's say someone is watching this, is going, man, I want to learn more about magic. How does one start investigating it? Because I know there's a lot on the internet, but where would you recommend? Are there good places or bad places, or how do you suggest someone start?
That's a good question, because you can just get, the market, the internet's just flooded with things, and there's so much crap out there.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy all this crap. That's why I say anyone, that go back to that Mark Wilson course. Anyone who wants to learn magic, you start with the Mark Wilson course. You start with the Mark Wilson course, and that's your foundation. That's, you're going to learn, your basic skills, and that's what you need before you start moving on. And then there's the Tarbell Course in Magic, which is 7 or 8 books that it's kind of.
I have like 2 or 3 of those.
Yep. There's good stuff in there still. And I would say there's so many online magic stores. There's Vanishing Ink, there's Hocus Pocus, there's Penguin, there's all these things, but you don't know. The problem with magic online now is a lot of it is just shot for YouTubers or Instagram people, and it's not good magic. It's just like, oh, this is good to shoot a video, and if someone was standing a foot over here or a foot over here, they'd see exactly what was going on. And these Instagram people might be shooting it 10 times, you know, make it look good once. So it's very, very, you don't know what you're getting exactly. It could be good or it could be crap. And the best thing to do is, find a magician, maybe that's in your city, and say you're interested in magic, and get a mentor if you can.
Yeah. I think you probably know him, Mark Horowitz.
I don't.
Oh, he lives here. Next time you're here, we'll connect you. You probably do you don't realize it. He's been in he's got one of the biggest magic libraries down here, and he collects all sorts of stuff, and he goes to every magic show. You probably see he's got the
handlebar mustache.
Yeah, the handlebar mustache. I'll connect you guys. But I went to him for a couple lessons. He's also an eye doctor, but an optometrist.
Okay.
But he performed at our wedding. But I took a couple lessons from him, and I think again it goes back to your original lesson, and something that you clearly have is persistence.
Yeah.
And that even the practice with magic, and he's like, here's the ball, and you're practicing with the ball and the pen and the all those things, or the pencil, and that's really the trick. And the reason why I like the prop magic so much is that it was so much easier.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, you can buy that stuff at the store and go out and do it the next day. So
yeah.
But to be an all-around magician, you really need to be able to, do something sleight-of-hand wise, or, learn the rope stuff. There's so much good rope magic out there, so much good card magic, so much good coin magic.
I want to incorporate more into my presenting, more music and more magic. I love to the ropes are pretty cool, and then tie it to personal development. So the stories I'm telling would be about transformation, and so that's how I've used it so far.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great vehicle. So what's next for you? Before you spent so much of your most valuable asset, your time, what's next for you? How can we support you? Where can people learn more about you so we can be sure that people are basking in your genius?
My webpage, GleasonMagic.com. And they can go there and, get a better idea of the illusion show I do, or the close-up show, or not really the mentalism. I need to actually work on that page of it. I also have a memory page, a memory web page. It's called what is it called?
But I have that program. It's brilliant. I love the whole thing when you presented that. Insane, so good.
I'm just joking. It's called Memory Power now.
Yeah,
but
right. Oh, that's right. You went over my head. You're so elegant at it that just set him up. I'll knock him down.
No, it's kind of interesting. The memorypowernow.com. I do a seminar called Total Recall, and I've been doing it for 20. When did I start doing that? 99. So 22 years I've been doing that, and it's called Total Recall, and it teaches people how to remember names, remember facts, remember numbers, remember anything they want. And it's an amazing course. And I actually first learned about it out of a magic book. A magician named Harry Lorraine wrote. He's like a card magician, but he made all of his money actually, or I'm not going to say all of his money, but I'm going to say 90% of his money doing memory seminars. But he would, in this book, Reputation Makers, it had this one little segment on memory. And I just said, wow, this is amazing. So I went out and studied everything I could on memory from his books. He put out a book called The Memory Book, and absolutely amazing book. And
so you never studied? Did you study NLP?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, because that's a lot of what you were sharing was born in NLP as well. So it's just cool. When did you get into NLP, and how did you find yourself using it most effectively?
That's kind of interesting because magic's kind of related to NLP.
Yeah.
So I probably got into that. I do a hypnosis show, Gleason, GleasonHypnosis.com also, and our good friend Marshall Silver taught me the whole hypnosis thing. And
Marshall trained you in his. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So. I saw a hypnotist in college, and I said, wow, that was the coolest thing ever. And this was 81 or 82, and there was no resources on how to learn how to do that. Right. And I looked so young when I was in college. And even in the nightclubs, when I owned the nightclubs, it was, I'm 30 years old, and I look like I'm, in high school. And people would come up, and I'd be kicking people out. And she's like, you can't kick me out. I want to talk to the manager. I am the manager. I want to talk to the owner. I am the owner. You're out of here. And so to be a successful hypnotist, I always thought you couldn't look like a kid. You had to look, you had to look the part. You couldn't, the hypnotist I saw was an older guy, and he had the credibility. And you just see some high school kid trying to, hypnotize you. You don't buy into that at all. So, so I never really pursued it. But then, I'm going to say 10 years. I've known Marshall since '96. So, but it wasn't until about 10 years ago I decided, you know what, I want to do this. And but it all ties together. The memory stuff, the hypnosis, the NLP, the magic. It just, they're all related kind of, and and it's easy to go from one to once you know how to, even mentalism, once building blocks in one of them, they use the same ones in all of them actually, so it's easy to move from one field to another.
Right. Oh, totally. And have you in the NLP world, did you ever get into sleight of mouth?
No.
Okay, I'll turn you on. The sleight of mouth is it's like sleight of hand, but it's using language patterns.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll dig it.
Yeah,
I'll hook you up with some stuff. Cool. And then one last thing with your thing in Kansas City. Are you still moving forward with that? You're still
Kansas City. It's still right now everything's ready to go on it. We're just waiting for for them to drop the restrictions on masks and social distancing, because it's not a big space, and I don't want to do a show for 20 people. It seats 100, and to do it for 20, it's like it's not worth it financially. It's not worth it. So
also it would be weird and awkward even if you had to wear a mask doing it.
I know. It just. But you know what? As soon as they start dropping these restrictions, people are dying to do stuff. People haven't done anything in a year, and it's like, I know I will be sold out. The minute I open the doors, it's going to be sold out for a year. So
love it. Well, and actually, it just made me think. Obviously, you could do magic on television, right? You've done that. Have you been doing any virtual shows?
No, I know some people do them. I don't. I think magic, you need to actually be there to experience it. I don't think it's the same as watching someone sitting in their office or living room, or in magic.
Like mentalism.
If I was going to do any, I'd kind of lean that way, but. It's just not as, I don't think it's near as strong as actually being here. And I have faith that this scamdemic will be over.
Yeah, it's or you just come down and spend more time in Florida, because
I know I've been thinking about that. Like, if this doesn't open pretty soon, that's where I'm going, Texas or Florida, where I can actually work. So
Yeah. Well, have you been down here yet recently?
I haven't been there. I haven't been there since March last year when I was on a ship out of, where were we out of? Fort Lauderdale. And I haven't been there, got off the ship and flew home March 14th.
Well, maybe you just got to come
and
hang out for a little bit. That would just be fun.
I know.
We got beaches and sun.
I know.
And freedom. It's all good. Like we got we got the trifecta. Awesome, brother. Well, any final words of advice for someone who is, dude, what you shared today was profound. And I really appreciate you as a, not only as a human and a person, but someone who has so much to offer. You're like a fountain of wisdom. And everything that you shared, and you pointed it out, it isn't just about magic. You just applied the personal responsibility, the fortitude, the perseverance, the persistence, the creativity, the flexibility in magic and club ownership and that kind and beyond. But any like life lessons or advice you would give a young Greg, knowing what you know now?
Buy Bitcoin when it first comes out.
Yeah, what's it at now? We're going to timestamp it, right? Let's see. So right now it is
Bitcoin, the first time you hear about it.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Why am I? It's not showing me my whole thing. Oh, 56.
Crazy.
God bless it. I had a good friend of mine told me about it when it was like $50. He was like, dude, you got to buy this Bitcoin stuff. And I'm like, what? And he's got to be, he's all over it now, of course, but he's been all over it. Do you have it? Are you in the space?
No, I wish I did.
I have a little bit, but when I got it at 10, and then it went up, or I bought it at like 13, and then it went down to 10. I was like, right now. No problem.
Yeah, I just never, I wasn't on top of it. I didn't understand it. And I never really researched it. And then I saw, when I was in China, I saw it go from, up to 20 or something. And then I get back from China and it's back down to 7 or something. I'm going, glad I didn't get into that.
Oh, it's so funny. But I think, that also proves you're human.
Yeah.
And, we didn't talk a lot about any mistakes that you've made necessarily. You just sort of touched on one that's not really a mistake, but, a regret or a feeling of, I wish I had, taken advantage of.
Right.
Is there something that you look back at, more than Bitcoin, that you go, man, that was like a really valuable lesson that I learned, and why you were able to keep pushing or to be as creative as you are?
I don't know right offhand. I'd have to think about that one for a little while. But I don't have hardly any regrets. It's I've had a great life, and everything that I've wanted to do, I've pretty much accomplished. And
I want to point out, you accomplished because you didn't give up and you kept pushing.
Right.
You pushed further than most people ever would, and they would have a story of victimhood of like, oh, this guy, I went to his office, 5 times, and, I missed, whatever. Whereas you were like, no, I'm just keep going until I get it.
Yep, I think it was the 19th or 20th time. It was like, okay, quit bugging us, going. We're going to hire you. So, yeah.
So I don't want to, kind of have it glazed over how hard you and smartly you did work and do work, that it's not like you're one of those guys who are just so blessed, like, oh, I just, I'm Midas, everything I touch turns to gold. Like you put in the effort, you put in the work, you do what it takes to be a master at what you do. You're on Masters of Illusion because of everything that you did before.
Right. And yeah. I mean, everybody has their ups and downs. I remember being so broke at one point in my 20s where, I couldn't afford contacts. I I couldn't afford contact solution to put my contacts, take my contacts out at night. It was, I had no money, none. And it was just like, luckily, where I was working, they had food there. We could eat free there. So this was, at one point. So, I've had ups and downs. And when you're broke and you have no money, it's just like it makes you, it motivates you to not let that happen again.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't want that to happen. So.
And I just had another thought, and I know we're going long, but I Masked Magician.
Yep.
Pro or con? Are you happy, sad? Was it a good for magic? Was it bad for magic? Was it both?
It was both. It didn't affect me at all because at that point he was giving away a lot of stuff, a lot of the standard stuff that everybody does.
Okay.
And I had already moved past that and had been creating my own illusions and creating my own presentations. And it did not faze me at all. But it did hurt a lot of people that, had just invested, saved up a few, $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 to buy this certain illusion that's been around for a while. And it did hurt. It did hurt people. It kind of, what it did to magic was it just showed it like it's not an art. It's just,
it's all technical.
Yeah, it's here. The box does the trick. It's like
right.
Magician claps his hand or points, and it's all the box. And it just, you could do that to any art. It just made the art look like it wasn't no skill whatsoever. Right. And anyone can put on a mask and go expose tricks, and it didn't help the art. But I'll tell you what it did also do was it exposed magic to a lot of people that saw it and thought, that's really cool. I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
So not only it helped get people into magic, and it didn't really hurt magic because people, if they don't have the interest, they don't remember it. It was right. Like, oh yeah, I saw that trick and that mask guy did it, but I don't remember how it works. Because
yeah, and even if you do, obviously that there's some sort of thing happening with the device or prop.
Right.
So what?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that, that it was done, that someone even to do the trick,
yeah.
And it I think it's still pretty impressive. And I see you've got Houdini's milk thing behind you, right? Is that Houdini's?
It's not actually Houdini's, but this is one of his, he basically had 3 or 4 things that really put him on the map. And, he was originally started off as handcuffs, and he was escape from handcuffs and get out of jail cells and stuff like that. And then his big thing was the straitjacket. This is a straitjacket right behind me.
Oh, is that actually his?
It's an exact copy of there was a movie by Tony Curtis in 1953 called Houdini. Uh-huh. And it had 7 or 8 guys getting out of a straitjacket. And I met the producer of it on a cruise ship and got to be good friends with him. And he talked about filming with Tony Curtis doing the Houdini movie. And I said, man, that would be really cool to, use that as a lead-in to do a straitjacket escape. So I had this custom made, and it's exactly like the movie. So
oh, wow, cool.
It's not from the movie, but it's exactly like it. I used it in my show for, 5 or 6 years. And it just, it's back to, the storytelling. It's not, here, I'm going to get out of a straitjacket.
Right.
How did I get started in magic? Well, I was a kid. I saw this movie Houdini with Tony Curtis, and there was this really cool scene where he got out of a straitjacket, and I was good friends with the producer of that. And I actually got one of the straitjackets from the movie, even though I didn't. But it looks exactly like it. So I bring it out, and then I bring some guy on stage, and he puts me in the straitjacket, and I talk about Tony Curtis was actually a actor. He wasn't a magician. The way you escape isn't exactly like it looks like the movie, but it's pretty close. And then I have the movie screen come down behind me, and I'm in the straitjacket, and there's Tony Curtis in it right behind me.
Oh, wow.
And we both do it at the exact same time, and it's almost identical. It's a little different, but it's almost identical. And I get out exactly the same time he gets out, and it's just, it takes the straitjacket into a whole different, I'm instead of just, getting out of a straitjacket, now it's this huge production, and it's got, this huge visual of Tony Curtis getting out of it at the same time, and the music from the movie, and the laugh track from the movie. It was
awesome.
It's just a great piece. And so I did that for years, and then over there, that's a replica of his water torture cell. His was that's kind of the modern version of it. The actual version, he had glass in the front, and they didn't have plexiglass in 1906 I think in 1906 when he first did that. So he had a glass front, and the rest of it was all wood, and it leaked bad. And technology today, it's you can make them out of plexiglass and seal it all up. And then,
are there any tricks by Houdini or anyone like that you don't know, that people still don't know how we're done?
Not really. There's a couple of famous ones. There's one called the Hooker Card Rise, and it's pretty. I've never seen it. It was a real elaborate routine with a deck of cards and cards rising out of a pack. And
okay,
I'd like to see it sometime, but it's kind of mythological. It's like it was recreated, and the guy that bought all the apparatus that did it, they recreated it in L.A. for a magic history conference, but I wasn't able to go to it. So, there's a few things like that out there, but overall, I'd say no. Houdini vanished an elephant on the Hippodrome stage in New York, and there's theories on how he did it, but it's kind of funny. They had 4 guys push out a big box, and the elephant got in the box, and they opened up the box, and it was gone, and then 14 guys pushed it off. So. Okay. There's magic historians that this is how he did it, but no one was around back then, so we don't know exactly. But
right. It's so fascinating, and I need to get over. I think sometimes I like once I start learning how the tricks are done, and I'm trying to do them. I need to switch my mindset around the experience instead of and I guess that's normal when you're first going through it, where you're just trying to get it all right and all of that. And it's really about providing the experience for somebody.
Yes.
And it's being clear about that. Well, awesome, brother. I thank you so much. You've been brilliant. We'll put your in the description. We'll put links and everything. I truly appreciate you for who you are and who you aren't, and I really had a blast. I look forward to more opportunities to rock with you. I hope to see you soon in Florida, and I'll definitely come to when you're up and live again. We'll be coming to your shows for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, Doug. You
got it, brother. And we will chat again shortly.
Awesome.
All right, brother. You rock.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging with us. And remember to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts right here. And we look forward to serving you even more. Remember, download your free guided hypnotic meditation at guidedhypnotic.com. That's guidedhypnotic.com, where you'll get your free anxiety-busting meditation. We look forward to serving you, and if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to reach out. All right, we love you for who you are and who you aren't. God bless.